All right, so we're at day two for creative ways of teaching. And if I believe if everyone except Miss Ariel, I had your email addresses, so I emailed you the link to the game, the PowerPoint layout, and then today I sent you the summary of the notes. I told you to stay engaged. I will send you back a copy of what was captured. I sent you that as well as sending you a link to watch the class back from what was last night in case you missed something. Miss Ariel, when I get your email address, I'll send you last night's and then you'll be on the list going forward. So before we start with anything new, did anybody have a question besides Dean Wicks? Got yours already. Anybody else have a question or concern from last night before we move on to something else?
This is Lachelle. I do have a question. I did not receive an email from you. Can you tell me which email address you use?
Yes, ma'am.
She's using the same email address that I have for you, Lachelle. So I have to change it because the email that you put on there, that's what she's using. So I change it for tomorrow.
Yeah,
We'll
what
get you the
is she?
document.
I just want to. Well, I just want to hear what she's got. I
Here's the
didn't
same one I
receive.
have that I told you because I'm going to send it to her. She had Clinton Bond or the C Bond, but I changed it with you yesterday afternoon, but I didn't change it on the master file. So I need to change it on the master file and send it to her.
Okay.
I want to ask a question.
No, neither.
Last night, what
You didn't know someone else didn't receive it?
Wait, just a moment. One of the persons on the phone is asking a question. Is that Nesby?
No, ma'am, that was someone else.
Okay.
And tell them to
was
please, Thomas, tell them to please check their spam as well. But I'll give you the correct address for Miss Vaughn, and I'll send it to
okay?
her so we can move on. But if you all will, please check your spam because she sent it out. It's a 9-page document. So check your spam to see if it's in your spam. But Miss Vaughn is a different, but I'll give you her correct email so we can move on. But if you didn't get it, put it in the chat and we'll make sure you get it.
I saw Janessa.
But I think somebody was asking a question. Mr. Nessa, did you have a question?
No.
Okay. All right. So, on my list of.
I'm just looking for the email. I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so if you didn't get it, like you said, check your spam. Otherwise, I can always hit resend. But everyone that was on the list, I sent them out. I didn't get no bounce backs, so I would assume that it went to your spam. So check that out. Okay, so for tonight, we're going to move to one of the other segments that the publishing board lists as a objective of this class, and that is about classroom behavior. So I brought some special guests with me that's going to do a little talking. Miss Latrice Holloway and Miss Yolanda Foster. Both of them work with children, and not that children are the only ones that have behavioral problems, but they'll be able to help us with that. So we're gonna have some special guests speaking tonight and giving us some real, more like hands-on things. Before we do that, I want to go back to one of the items that I stated last night, and that is that before we can teach creatively, we must actually teach or be able to teach. So I'm gonna first ask, did you guys do y'all homework that was in your syllabus? And I'm gonna say for a hint, I did not tell you what it was. If you read your syllabus, you would have known what it was. Did anybody do the homework?
Guilty.
Matthew chapter 15.
Yes. Matthew chapter 15. In the syllabus, it said before Tuesday, read Matthew 15. We're not going to do it right now. It's going to be on the second half of the class, but I told you I was going to always be teaching. If you expect your students to read syllabus, read their books, and whatnot, you guys also need to be able to do that as well. We're going to be able to get through class without you doing it, but that was another test for you. You should do what you expect students to do. What I do want to talk about and start with is the importance of us actually planning out what we're going to do. In your syllabus, on page 5, the commentary piece says lesson plans help you to plan. Is what's in your syllabus. And general principle here is that you cannot wait to the last minute to prep for what you're going to do. If you do wait to the last minute, you do not have time to actually be creative. You may have time to skim over the book and read over the scriptures really quickly and decide the movement that you're going to have. You might even be able to come up with a really quick question. But if you have not had time to sit with the actual text, you don't even have a general format, let alone a creative format. So part of you being creative is first you actually spending time with what you're going to be doing. If you are a part of a like Sunday school, like in this case, I had to submit a syllabus to the dean. Before I could get certified to teach this class, I had to list out what would I do for 10 hours. Like I had to itemize the various things that I would teach, the methods that I would use for them. You need the same things for your classroom. It keeps you on task. It helps you keep control because you know where you're going next with things. You know when you're off if you haven't done that. So how many of you guys actually create lesson plans when you're getting ready to teach? Show of hands, right? Test on your little technology. Send up like a little emoji if you do, or put it in the chat. I saw one. I see one physical hand, Miss Carolyn. I see Miss Brooks trying to do something. I see Miss Betty raising her hand. I see Miss Ariel with a heart. All right. Actual lesson plans, they help you know where you're going to go. And in order to do it, you would have already had to read. So even if the superintendent or the Christian ed director, okay, Miss Eva, I see yours. If you guys are not required to do them for yourself so that you can have a plan. I see your thumbs up, Miss Brooks. Do it for yourself so that you have a actual flow forward. You've sat in the class before and you've been thinking like, what are they doing? They're all over the place. They don't know where they're going next. And it shows because they did not have a plan. And remember, you don't want to have the worst teacher experience with your name behind it because you did not prepare. So in the syllabus, I gave you five different ways that you could lay out your lesson. And here's one of the things that I'm going to encourage you before you can be creative is that you have to actually build up the lesson, right? You can get the scriptures that you're supposed to teach if you're Sunday school. The book tells you what to do. If you're Bible study, they may tell you we're going to teach on this topic or whatnot. You can get the base of what you're supposed to do, but then you're going to decide the how. The actual story that you're teaching or the principle that you're teaching should denote which one of these methods that you will follow. It's not enough to just read. I told y'all I've been scarred for 30 years from that one class that they read to me. It's not enough for you to read. How will you do it? So let's look at the bottom of page 5 and the beginning of page 6 in your syllabus that gives you some multiple ways you can do this. The first one is called the background, burden, and blessing, like the B's. If you do this method, it's like you're building up the story. And this is probably the basic way that most Sunday school lessons are set up. It's going to give you some historical information or background information. You're going to get the meat of it, and then you're going to get something good at the end. That's a typical flow. So for you, when you're actually studying and preparing, you may have to go outside of the printed information that you have. for you to get more background information. They may give you two scriptures to read, and if you say those two little scriptures, you still don't have a whole lot of meat. You haven't explained words. You haven't talked about the background. You haven't talked about the time frame or anything. So you actually studying, not reading the lesson, but you studying the lesson so that you can be prepared to teach the lesson. There's a difference between you just reading and you studying. You laying out your plan is going to force you to go study so you can bring more for your students so that they can walk away impacted by your study time, because you're going to be able to deliver it with some conviction because you actually spent time with it and not just the night before. So, first one, building it up. What happened? Give historical context. You could even this one really good for you to even bring in like maps for things. Like I'm gonna show y'all some maps in tomorrow's layout. Bringing in maps, showing them physically where it is, all little things like that. The next one, option B, is 5 W's and an H is how you can remember it. It's the multiple questions. You're going to tell the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, the how. That's a way you can lay out your lesson. So it's more informational. If you're able to move them through every one of these aspects, who are we talking about? What are we talking about? And if you go this route, you're really able to build games off of the 5 W's and an H, because you would have already given them so much that you can lay it out in individual questions where they can regurgitate it back to you because you spelled it all out for them. Okay. And every lesson does not lend itself for a who, what, when, where, why, how. So you have to be selective about when you choose this option. But if you're reading it and you see places and time frames and multiple people, like that's a great indication that you could use this option. If you do your study, like really, really are studying, you probably could make it happen, but you'll do more study if it's not very visible for you. You following what I'm saying? Yes. Okay. I see some heads. Okay. So when there's characters and events, you can choose this option to build it up, because what you're hoping for is that the students will, if they knew nothing before they came to class, that they can walk out of that class now knowing that story, that principle, that truth that you, great teacher, was assigned to give to them. If they knew something about it, you want them to walk away having learned more because you took the time to actually learn something else or bring in a way to teach them something. And if they are completely confused or it's something that is kind of questionable to them, what's the right or wrong way, you're hoping that they leave your class on the side of right because you put all of the principles in front of them that led them straight to the Bible to teach them exactly what the Bible said. Not what great teacher said, but what does the Bible say? Because you've laid it out according to the method that you chose. Okay. Those are the two basic ones, common ones. If you go to option C, it's called the SOAP method. This one is where you're really studying, really drilling in to one little piece. This may be a topical one. Let's say we're going to talk about we're gonna talk about forgiveness, for example. You are picking a focused scripture is what you're gonna teach about. This method will be good for something that's very topical. You have the scripture, or it's called SOAP method. So for every letter, SOAP, you have something that it stands for. With the SOAP, the S stands for the scripture. What scripture are we looking at? You're going to take the time to read that. You're going to just spend time just in reading that scripture, not going too far. What does it say? Then you are going to say, what did I observe from that? right? What am I getting out of that? What am I, you, the person, what am I seeing in this? It might not jump off the page, at you, but wherever you are in your life, in your studies, in your convictions with God, is going to determine what your observation is. Okay, and I'm going to give you an example in just a moment. Then you go to the application. How do you take what you observed and apply it? What questions are coming up for you to say, okay, this is what I observed, and this is how I can put it in my life? And at the end, you're going to end with prayer. Okay, now I'm going to pause right here and I'm going to give you an example of a story that I want to see what you observe or what you get from this. Let me get a Bible. Wait, it's not the one I want. Go to John. If you have your Bibles, go to John chapter 2. This is probably one of the most familiar stories in the Bible about the wedding at Cana, where Jesus turned water into wine. Okay. In the story, we can read the next day there was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the celebration. The wine supply ran out during the festivals, so Jesus' mother told him, "They have no more wine." "Woman," Jesus says, "that's not our problem. My time has not yet come." But his mother told his servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Standing nearby were 6 stone water jars used for the Jewish ceremonial washing. Each could hold 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told the servants, "Fill the jars with water." When the jars had been filled, he said, "Now dip some out and take it to the master of the ceremonies," so that the servants followed his instructions. When the master of the ceremonies tasted the water that was now wine, not knowing where it had come from, he called the bridegroom over. A host also serves the best wine for the host always serves the best wine first, he said. Then when everyone has had a lot to drink, he brings out the less expensive wine, but you have kept the best until now. This miraculous sign at Cana in Galilee was the first time Jesus revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Okay, we all know that story, right? I'm going to ask you what sticks out to you in this story. What do you hear? What is the one thing that you observe just from reading the text? You can either come off mute and say it aloud or you can drop it in the chat. When you hear that story, what do you observe from that?
Okay, Sister Thompson.
Yes.
Thomas, I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
Mhm.
What I observed first was that when his mother came to Jesus and told him, Jesus said, "Woman, what have I to do with thee?" He has more important things that's coming up. He questions her, but he turns around and then the water, um, the 6 water pot set. So it's like he changed and saw what was needed, and then he was going to go ahead and do his miracle. So,
Okay.
at first you see that and you said, Jesus said, I've got other things, but then he turns around to show the love and kindness that God has for us and the people, and he asks us for the water pots to be
Okay.
filled.
So I'm gonna say that you observed that he had love and compassion because he changed. Okay, I'm gonna
Yes.
take that. Who else? What did you observe?
They followed his instructions.
Okay. Followed his instructions.
I think he
Okay.
respected authority in his mother.
Okay. All right. I see in the chat Jesus always gives his best. Okay. Anyone else? Did you observe anything?
I observed that, this is Trinice Nisby. I observed that he honored his mother just as the other lady said. That's what I saw.
Okay.
I observed that he provided a service, which God always tells us to serve others. This is Paula Monroe.
Okay. I see
I
in the chat.
observed
Observe that the transformation happens in ordinary vessels, and in obedience unlocks miracles, or it
Okay.
unlocks the miracle. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. I
I
see in the,
observed
go ahead, Miss Greer.
I observed that this was his first miracle and it happened on the third day.
Okay. Okay. I see in the chat the fact that Jesus' mother came to him to fix the problem that didn't involve him or her. Okay. Pastor Wicks, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, I observed the confidence and the faith she had that her son was capable of addressing the issue.
Okay.
And she instructed the servers to do what he instructed them to do.
Okay.
So she totally surrendered to him.
All right. Anybody else observe anything? Mr. iPad 4 down here in the corner, what's your name?
I'm Pastor Williams.
Okay,
Carlos
Pastor
Williams.
Williams.
I should have been there here last night, but
welcome tonight.
Yes, ma'am. Well,
okay.
What I'm observing there, just in these verses, where Jesus said to his mother, "Woman, what have I to do with thee? My hour is not yet come."
Mm-hmm.
That caught my attention.
Okay. Anybody else?
You know, it also sounds like Jesus and his mom are having one level of conversation, and the rest in the room are not really hip to what is possible. She knows, he knows, they don't. He's about to show. So his mama might have been showing off a little bit.
Yeah. That's why he had to say woman.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. So that was about 9 of you, and none of you said the same thing. So that lesson, this scripture could be taught 9 different ways. The emphasis of what you saw is going to drive how you're going to create your lesson for that class. When I read this, I picked this up. I wrote a book recently. I used this scripture to talk about the importance of following or of giving and making assignments and following assignments. The mother goes to Jesus and tells him a problem. She's trying to give him an assignment. She walks away and tells them, do whatever he tell you. She gave out an assignment. Jesus says, go fill the water jars. That was another assignment. Then Jesus says, take it to the master of the wedding and let him taste. There was 4 assignments in these little bitty verses. Right now, because I'm writing a book about leadership, I'm trying to find the actual thing that I could say. The Bible tells us examples of how we should do this. So when I read it, I saw leadership, but you saw care. You saw Jesus giving his best. You saw the 3 days. Like all of us saw something different. When you actually take the time to read it, whatever sticks out to you is what you're going to promote to your class, which is why you have to spend some time really reading it ahead of time so you can decide which way you're going. We could have went 9 ways today with this very little thing. But if you don't read it ahead of time and reread, I'm gonna tell you something else next. Rereading and doing multiple things, you're only going to teach whatever the book told you to say, which will give you no creativity whatsoever. You may promote the objective from whoever wrote that lesson, but your students are only going to get what was in that book, which means they could have read it at home by themselves and there was nothing else that you added to them. You must read ahead of time, prepare ahead of time. Find the method that you're going to use that's going to be the most impactful for this lesson. Okay. And when we do one of our special guests tonight, I'm going to bring this back up. Whatever fits the best for this lesson is what you do. You will not do the same thing every time. Okay, Miss Eva, I see your hand up.
I've read it, and I read it in I have all these different translations. But what translation were you reading from when you introduced
Sorry,
us
this
to it?
this is a New Living Translation.
New Living, okay. I've
Yes,
got
ma'am.
one.
It's
Thank
my
you.
friend. This one in CSB, which we're gonna talk about Bible versions tomorrow.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. Anybody else have a question about you taking the time to really prepare? We can't be creative if we're not really doing the basics. You got to get the basics so you can build on top of that so you will even know where to go, right? Like when you get ready to create a game or create a outing or activity or whatever, you have to know, oh, well, if I do this, it'll emphasize that. So I will do this, But if you won't have that, if you don't already know the lesson, have really studied the lesson. Okay. All right. So we're going to segue into what objective that we have. I'm sorry, Miss Eva, I see your hand.
I started my preparation for my Sunday school lessons on Tuesday.
All
And
right.
then I read it one day, and then the next day I say, "Oh, this is something else." And by the time that Saturday night get there, I am aware of the possibilities because in my adult women's class, those ladies are sharp. They study their lesson before they get to class. Well, half of them do.
Yes. Miss Eva is going to be teaching our class tomorrow night, ladies. She has all of it down pat. Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that with us. All right. So, what I want to segue to now is classroom behaviors because sometimes we are not allowed to teach anything because we're so interrupted with discipline problems. And sometimes we don't give the right responses to the discipline actions and we make it worse in classes. And then there should be some things that we could do that can help us with that. So I invited Ms. Latrice Holloway to come and talk to us because she is a director at a child care program and I always say, are you a real teacher? Because every time she says something, she's saying it from a teacher's lens and thinking like a child. And I'm like, I would have never thought of that. But she has experience with classroom behavior type issues. So we're going to let her speak to us for just a little bit, and I'm going to let you guys ask her questions in that area so that we can add to the lesson. So, Mr. Treese, thank you for coming. Please go ahead and come off mic and share with us what you want to help us with today.
Well, thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. I don't know what she means by think like a child, but I'll stay there because I like there. Those are my people. I will advocate for them until I cannot advocate anymore. But with that being said, they aren't all little angels, right? And if you don't have the heart and you don't have the patience, then you probably don't want to be around the children because they are going to do what they are to do at their different stages and different ages. Yeah. So this rattle here represents a child overflowing with all the emotions they ever could get as a little person. That could be fear, that could be what with insecurity, that could be enjoyment, excitement, whatever it is. A lot of them may not know what to do with it. So it is for us as teachers to help them decipher. So if we take out whatever emotion one by one, meaning we have to build a relationship, it'll quiet that chaotic noise. Then you're building a relationship. Once you build that relationship, you can breeze right on through your classroom lessons because now you got their attention. Can we come off sometimes back in the day? Teachers used to look at us down our noses and all that and point at you. That's really not what teaching is. I'm trying to explain to some of us these days. We have to know exactly where our children are lacking. And the first place may be, especially coming to church or youth camp or something, we don't know where they just left from home. We don't know if they came just because they know we're going to feed them. We don't know if they came just because it's a break from whatever they are dealing with Monday through Friday, any other time. And we don't really have to care. We don't really have to know, but we want to see them continue to come because once they come, you now get to show them what they are lacking. Whether it's behavioral wise, whether it's some of them just look for, I say a friend, and I can say this, but I won't say I'm judgmental, but working with youth, I can say, because I probably was a trouble youth, I ain't gonna say probably was, but anywho, we'll pass right on past that. But knowing where I come from, I can see in a child some moments or some areas where they may be not know what to do next. I remember being at a camp and I identified with a young lady because I saw myself in her. And at first I thought, oh my goodness, we're going to have such problems out of this young lady because she didn't really look engaged and like she wanted to be there. But as I kept studying her, I kept thinking, she may have been forced to come here. Maybe this isn't her lane. So I found a way into her lane because I noticed she liked doing her hair before she came to the programs. So I slid up to her one day and said, hey, can you do my edges? She was looking mad at the world, but when I asked her, could she do my edges? I don't know. It was like she won $1 million because she looked like, for real? Are you serious? And once we started that child was with me for the rest of the week. I still speak with her today. And that was over, 2 years ago, Miss Demetra? So the thing is, you build a rapport with your children. Um, Miss Demetra has scriptures that she wanted us to all keep in mind, and I just had a few of them with the understanding the needs approach. Before we can effectively manage a classroom, we just definitely have to understand the needs of our youth. The behaviors can stem from whatever. If they're acting out, they may want attention. They may be trying to connect with a peer. We just have to be mentors and friends. A little understanding can go a long way. You have to think of strategies. You have to be fun. Church can be fun. Act out that Bible study you got, that lesson you got planned out. That's where the lesson plan comes in at. If you got you a theme, everything should be that theme. If you are teaching the fish and 5 loaves of bread, have some bread loaves in there. Have a bread lesson. Have the fish. Name the fish. How many fish? You get it to get a net. Let somebody be the kid. Let somebody be Jesus. Let somebody. That's how you get the kids engaged. And once you got them engaged, the problem, they don't have time to have a problem because they're too busy enjoying and soaking up what you got to give them. And that's really what I got, Mr. Mitra. I don't know. I'm not a big talker. I don't know if anybody has um, any questions. I talk a little fast, but we definitely have to know the importance of engaging the children because if you got their attention, then they're listening. But if you're too busy trying to make them sit down, 10 minutes go by, 20 minutes go by, you didn't get your lesson out. And then you're frustrated with the children when you're really going to have to probably rein it back, like maybe I didn't approach that as well as I should. So we need to look through the eyes of the children, let them understand we are there for them, um, and that their behaviors are not directly who they are. It may just be a cry for help from you. And as youth workers and servants of the Lord, we should be open heartedly and discerning in those things and approach them appropriately.
Thank you for that. Can I ask you to talk about like some of the ways to get the children that are acting out or bad behavior? What are some of the first go-to methods that you could use to not explode it more, but to kind of diffuse it some?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily yell, hey, stop that, don't do that. How about we try, hey, you think there's another way we can figure this out? Hey, why don't you come up? You know, it's all in the way you approach something. I always say tone and attitude first because they can see it before you speak it. So let's just try to come to them in a gentle way. I'm into songs and dance. That's my thing. Everybody may not sing and everybody may not dance, and I don't necessarily either. But I know it makes a difference with a kid for them to see that I'm not judgmental of them and that I can do. Show me what you're working with, I'll do it too. But we have to build a relationship.
Miss Ariel, I see your hand. You can go ahead and ask your question. You're on mute still.
I'm so sorry about that, y'all. I'm driving too, so I'm trying to be careful. But Miss Holloway, I just wanted to thank you for sharing your experiences and your knowledge. I currently work with our youth department at Acacia, and this past Sunday, I had a couple of children in my Sunday school who you could tell have never been to church. This was their first actual church experience. And I have background. I currently work at a school. And like you said, one thing that just stuck out to me was building relationships and making sure that because children model off of us, they watch what we do as adults. They look at you, they see, they imitate us, but they're like a sponge. They absorb every little thing. And I can tell you at the end of our Sunday school that both of them and even all of the students were able to tell me and regurgitate back after our lesson was just remarkable. So I just wanted to thank you for sharing that because I love children. I love working with them. I live and I breathe it. And I'm excited just to be in this class, just to learn new techniques and new ways to be a better educator because we're always learning too as adults because they teach me every single Sunday. You have your lesson plan established and they'll throw in a curveball with a question that may not even be in the lesson plan that I had already established, but it's being flexible too as an educator and as a teacher. But thank you so much for sharing all of that with us.
You're welcome.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna repeat something Miss Ariel said after the break when we talk about the youth. Thank you, Miss Ariel, for speaking. Does anybody else have a question about children or reacting to children or with their behavioral issues that may come up?
I have a question. Where is the fine line between children who are acting out and want attention and perhaps giving them the abundance of attention to the discredit of the children who are quietly sitting there doing what they're supposed to do?
Who received this, will they still be alive?
Once you've identified that, you're gonna have homework to go home to that night because you're gonna see that first day, and you're gonna have to come up with some type of strategy to ensure that okay, yeah, they've got my attention, but this is gonna be a classroom uh, endeavor. That may be they have to sit in front and know you because for whatever reason they may have attached themselves. You may remind them of somebody. You may be giving them that one thing they aren't getting at home. So I mean, and if they know they got your attention the first time, they're going to keep sucking off of that. I have just learned it's going to stem that from that nurturing or something they are lacking in that nurturing. But we're going to have to try to figure out a strategy for them to know it's a group. They might not be able to sit alone. So maybe we have to get someone that we can introduce them to in your class that may have something in common, and you have to make that segue into that with them, and then they'll see how that person is doing, and they will also start to try or model that behavior as well. You just keep trying. You just don't give up and don't get frustrated, and they'll see that you're trying to help them. Frustration will also bring an agitation from them. So we don't want to do that. We just want to keep trying, come back with something else. And when they realize you're not giving up, it just may hit home somewhere.
Mhm. To that and say that I tend to find my children who really need help or need to attach to me or maybe the behavior people, and I try to give them the attention that they need before class. I am Everybody's a little pumpkin to me or my little princess or my little kings. I am asking them to come help me carry my stuff like I already gave them something to do. They already had their attention. And I always will try to tell them, like, I really need you in this class. So do this so they feel the ownership of helping me get through the class instead of them being the nuisance of the class. They know that I'm depending up on them to help me get through it. So I always try to address whatever I know the need is. I try to do that before we get in the class space, or make sure I tell them, hey, after class, I need to blah, blah, blah. So they waiting for whatever it is. Like, you got to make those connections with those troublesome children so that they can stop being the troublesome children.
Just stay
Miss
calm
Carolyn, I
and
think I
consider.
saw your hand.
Um, I have a concern with us calling children troublesome or children who are just disobedient behavior problems. There's a difference between a child with a behavior problem and a child who is disrespectful or disobedient. I think when we think about a child with a behavior problem, we need to identify what that behavior is and address that child based on that behavior. When you have a child who is disrespectful, that's a child that needs to be taught how to respect. When you have a child who is disruptive, that's the child that you need to sometime pull aside and talk to him about the disruption and why it's not acceptable. But when I think of a child with a behavior problem, I'm thinking of a child with a true behavior issue that we need to identify and address. And everybody who we call so called acting out are not truly acting out. They have a behavior problem. And as instructors and teachers, we have to learn how to identify those behaviors and how to address those behaviors. That's all I got to say. I just have a problem calling the child. Anyway, that's my woe for the day.
Take your woe. And if you look in the syllabus on page 3, this is listed beside where it says course schedule, listed beside hour number 3. I have some YouTube links in there. I'm gonna show this on the screen so I can tell you what to do here. One moment. Okay, this one is the first link. In fact, let me get past the little commercial. They want you to always get an advertisement. Okay, this program is called Feed the Needs. This lady is a specialist. She goes around teaching schools. She writes plans for superintendents, districts. She personally coaches or whatnot. She has many, 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 many videos. So what I will when you actually go to her page or go to YouTube, do this, feed the needs, and I do want y'all to subscribe to this because when you go to her page, she has 197 videos. Some of them are like 3 minutes, some of them are like 4 minutes. Like this is like 26 minutes. This one says how I overcome disruptive and disrespectful classrooms. The points that you made, Miss Carolyn, she talks about the difference between educational well, I'll say behavioral problems, as in like they don't want to do what they're doing, they're bored, they want to be disrespectful, versus children who really we haven't her premise we haven't fed their needs, so they're gonna act out. There's also videos here that add in pieces for what is labeled as autistic children or people on the spectrum, that there's different things. So to your point, there is a difference in both. And there's many more things that we can label children for. Because we are not licensed therapists or people in the medical field, people like this program Feed the Needs can help us with the various things we have. She gives out points in all of her videos. She actually tells you stories of things that happened either with her. She tells you, I was a teacher. One of her videos that I saw, she mentions that she was a teacher. The student was kind of rough, and she was right back with him rough. And she said, "I lost. That kid took over that class, and I completely lost that battle. But I didn't handle it right from the beginning, so I should not have won that." And I know that over time, that the rules have changed about how you can address a child, what you can even do with a child. She has amazing suggestions, but she also tells you the real life thing. Now it like even here, student power struggles, various things she has. But the one that I listed for you, the link for you, that I put in talks about well, I gave you two links. This one talks about behavior management when they're disruptive, because a lot of times you won't be able to actually teach your class when once a class is out of control. There is no more teaching happening. I don't care how good you are as a person, that class is done for that day. So the objective will be to not let it get there. And to your point, we have to learn how to identify what's happening. Miss Vaughn's question about when they, asking questions or just taking over, they don't want me to deal with people. That's a symptom of those things. We could have, every last one of us, I'm sure, could tell a specific story of something that has happened. Premise that I want us to take away is that we have to learn how to address those, and it's not always us asserting our authority as an authoritative figure, because kids these days are built different than how we were built, and they're gonna tell you and your mama too what they think about what you're saying, and you're gonna be mad because they did that, and it's gonna caterpillar all out of control, and ain't nobody learning no Bible truths because we mad because that kid disrespected us. We got to stop it before it gets there, and that is learning how to build relationships. Like Mr. Tree said, yesterday said your teacher always showed you care. Even in the comment, I believe it was Reverend Nesby said that he would get licks for everything that he got wrong. Now they don't give licks out in class anymore. I wish you would try to give a lick out at a class. There's gonna be a whole lot of licking going, and it ain't gonna be from you if you try that with a kid nowadays. So we have to learn how we're going to respond to what they're doing. But if we have studied, which is the reason why I want to talk about the lesson plans attached to this, if you have studied and you have provided a path and added in the creative ways to keep their attention, why would the kid be acting out? If you have engaged them, you are stimulating them, you're putting things in front of them, why would they be acting out? Right now, there's reasons that they could. They hungry. I'm sure everybody has kids in a Catholic school hungry. They got problems at home. They scared about something. When I was a youth pastor, I had kids come in and tell me one of them almost just got snatched by a person who was literally trying to child traffic her. Like, we have real life issues that we deal with. We don't know what happened before they came in that room. But if your room is set up in a way that you are ready to engage them, hi, little Johnny, your affinity terms for whoever and whatever it is, you already got the place set for them to start doing active things. You're not going to come in and read to them. Read the key verse right away. What are you doing to keep the stage set to make sure it goes up from here and not awry from here? It's going to be your goal. Miss Carla, I see your hand.
Me?
I think Reverend Williams had something first.
Oh, okay.
I remember, and first of all, I want to tell you all that this class is exciting to me. I'm loving this, you know.
Yay.
But I want to say this. I remember years ago when I was in college, I was taking a course on Bill Gothard seminar, and one of the statements that stayed with me even today was he said in that teaching, even in this situation, he said what you have to do, you have to learn how to look beyond the offense and see the offender's need. And so that's what
Mm-hmm.
I've always kept that in mind in every situation in church, whatever, when people act out or people are offended or whatever is done. I've always been able to, instead of responding to it in a bad way or getting angry or acting out because they acted out, I've always
Mm-hmm.
used that as a means on how I responded with what they, because a lot of times their response is because, and what y'all are saying is because they have a need that is greater than the offense. So that said a lot to me when y'all said that tonight. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take a preaching moment. Aren't our needs greater than the offenses that we did? That
Oh
Jesus,
yes. Oh
see,
yeah.
we give the grace that we have received. And when
Right.
we know the truth of the story and how we can have that excitement because what has happened to us, you're able to give that back to someone. I can recall when I first took over youth ministry. I asked, they asked me, how would I asked them, I'm sorry, I asked them who was the worst kid. I was working in children's and I was coming to youth. I asked who was the worst child, and they told me what his name was. I said, all right, that's my mark. When I convert him, that's how I know that this ministry is effective. I can have all of these small little wins, but until I get the one that you claim is the worst one, nothing that I do means anything until I get him. And I want to tell you that I personally talked to that little boy, befriended him, it wasn't even 3 weeks in to me being over their area that he would meet me outside and ask me, did I have bags to bring in? Do you need help, Miss Demetria? Like he saw that I was feeding him. And we took those kids to National Baptist Congress that same year. He was a ladies' man, so he only going to classes that girls was in. We having to make sure that he ain't doing nothing he shouldn't be doing. And he told me that he was in the poetry group, which they was gonna do spoken word. I went to the poetry room and I did not see him, and so I'm frantic. I done brought this boy across country and he ain't where he's supposed to be. And I found I said, "Where were you at?" He's like, "Oh, Mr. Demetri, I changed classes. I went to drama. I got out of there and went to drama." I was like, all right. So every day I'm going and checking, seeing where the kids are, making sure they where they're supposed to be. He was in drama every day. Well, I'm watching the play. National Baptist Congress, they had thousands of kids, back then. And I'm in this sanctuary, auditorium, and I have not seen this boy yet. And now I'm frantic. Where is he? This thing is almost over. And when I tell you that it was the end of the play and he came down the aisle, he was the Jesus of the play at the National Baptist Congress event. And I'm like, he did it because we fed him. He was no longer a problem. He did everything that we asked him to do. And people are like, what happened to him? We gave him some attention, is what happened to him. So I want to say you are so right. Look beyond the offenses and beyond the offender. Look at the fence. You are so right. That is a great way to say that. Okay, Miss Carla.
I just want to say thanks to Miss Holloway. And what I'm hearing is like I've admitted it many times. I am not a children's person. I have children and I can barely tolerate my own. But I think it's obviously one thing she said that stuck out is if you're not for children, like if you know that's not for you, then don't do it. Like I'll be honest, I am an authoritative person. So like I'm like, I don't know why you're doing that over there, little Johnny, because little Molly not doing it. It doesn't make sense to me. So I know that because it's like as I say, that's not my ministry. Kids aren't my ministry. then to stay away from them. Because like it sounds like for those who work with children, it's like you got to be a teacher and a counselor, those things. And it's like, yeah, I know I don't have that bone. So it's like while Miss Carolyn was saying, like, you got to know the difference. Like hearing that, I'm like, because at first when I was asked to teach our Sunday school class, I'm like, why would she put me with adults? Like these are old people. And then listening, I'm like, oh, now I know, because she knows she can't put me with the kids. So it's just evidence. So it's like to know where you will be useful and impactful, because like you said, it's easy to sort of throw that authority out there. Like, I'm an adult, you gonna listen to me. Where it's like, well, like you said, I may not be able to identify, oh, she's hungry. I just see an attitude. So it's like it's important to be where you can be used.
Yes. Yes. All right. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much, Mr. Treese. Thank you. I know you have to go back to work, so we appreciate you for dropping in, giving us those nuggets. If I get more questions, I will certainly grab them and get the answers and bring them back to y'all tomorrow. So thank you, Mr. Treese. So the next part here for children, I brought Miss Yolanda Foster. She is probably one of the most creative artistic children's workers I have ever seen. And my mother is on here, so she could tell you that I can't even hold a pair of scissors and cut a piece of paper correctly. I have no artistic abilities whatsoever. But I got some crafts over here that I did make that I'm gonna show y'all something tonight. But here's what I want to say and why I want to bring Miss Yolanda. Last night, I started one segment about creative versus costly. And I said that all things that we do should not have to cost you money. And she is an expert of looking at what the Bible lesson is and finding a creative way to teach that. So we're going to talk about a couple of Bible stories or lessons for how we could do something creatively. Miss Yolanda, do you want me to show my craft first and we start with that one, or do the second one?
Whichever one you would like to do.
Okay, so we're gonna start with the second one first, and we can end with the craft one when we get ready to go to break. Okay, so I watched her teach this lesson firsthand. Do you guys remember the story in John about the man at the pool of Bethesda who was not able to get into the pool because he had no one to help him? And it was believed that when the water stirred up, there was some special healing going on. So people would run to the pool, or other people would help people to the pool. But this man did not have anyone to help him. Y'all remember that story? All right. Miss Yolanda, tell us the creative way that you use to teach this and show this to the children.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yolanda, and I'm just going to reiterate what Mr. Demetrius said. If you study throughout the week, that lesson, God will put you in a situation where that lesson, you're going to know it for yourself. You can't teach something you don't know. So I was like, okay, where am I going to get a pool? And where am I going to get a man that's paralyzed? I said, I got to teach this. I said, God, just show me. He said, what I want you to do is, I want you to tell him what being paralyzed is. Now, I want every one of y'all to think that you are second through fourth grade. You're not an adult. So right now, you're not an adult. You're second through fourth grade. And I want you to think in your mind. Miss Yolanda's going to tell me this story. So I put a child on a mat and I said, you are paralyzed. I gave him from the waist down. It could have been from the neck down. But I'm going to sit you on this mat and I'm going to put some chairs over here to the side. And I want you, put candy in the chair, something that they would go for. And I said, when the pool is stirred, I want you, the paralytic, to get to the pool, to get to these chairs. And they were like, oh man, how's she going to do that? And I was like, I don't know. You've got to get there. I said, so think in your mind how. And just like the story, I had other kids going and getting to the pool first. And she was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I said, think. Think of how you can do this. So she started scooting her bottom. And I said, well, does a paralegic scoot their bottom? Can they do that? Well, they can if they're using their hands, because I didn't do it from the shoulders down. Because if it's the shoulders, it's just your head moving. I said, but just think. And then one of them said, well, I could have asked somebody to take me to. I said, correct. I said, you just don't have to lay there. God has given us the ability, the mindset. So they were so excited. I just need to do it. And I said, no, you can't get up. That was her first instinct, was to get up or to move her legs. I said, no, you can't move your legs. So it got in, and every Sunday it was like, are we going to do the pool? Are we going to? And I said, no, we got another lesson today. But it stuck with them that they could, I'm not able to move my body. I said, so it doesn't hurt you to ask for help. I said, it's not so much as getting to the candy. I said, the pool is to heal. You're going, and even if you don't get to the pool, you're still going to be healed if you believe. So therefore, I said, just think in your mind, people that are unable to do the things that y'all do. We take for granted. I said, so just remember the lesson. So that was nothing. I mean, I just got a little carpet mat and some chairs and a couple of pieces of candy. That was inexpensive. So, I mean, you have things around your house. You have plates. They were like, what are we going to do today? And I said, we're going to make a door hanger. Do you see the eyes? I will obey right away, all the way, and in a happy way. And I said, now hang this on your door. And on the back, I put enter in with a smile. This is your door hanger that they can put on their door. And remember, hey, I need to enter in with a smile. Or I need to obey in the right way, all the way, and in a happy way, instead of being mad. If this is hanging, you're going to remember. You're going to remember the lesson. So it's nothing that has to be a whole lot of hoopla. You don't have to spend a whole lot of money. I said, I'm going to put one eye. And I said, no, I need two, because I need two watching me. So, I mean, but just something little, and I got little trinkets for them to put on there. Make it your own. This you can hang on your door. Then I said, okay, what about the fruits of the spirit? This is a plate. I said, you can color it any way you want. Remember, I'm teaching 2nd through 4th. So make it your own. You can hang this on the refrigerator. It doesn't have to be anything. You can go down to the store, to the Dollar Tree. I think it's $1.25 or whatever. You can get you some shaving cream, put it on the table, and let them draw. Hey, what did God? Oh, make me a flower. Make me something that God would be happy to see. Get them to thinking. What could you share with someone else? And then God's promises. Miss Demetria was talking about where, when, and how. God's promise. And it's got where, turn it on around, when, what, and who. So what were the promises God made to this certain person? And this is a paper plate. I'm just saying. There's things that do not cost a whole lot of money, but you have to be creative. And if you have smaller children, you're going to want to cut these things out way before the night before. Because if you've got a lot of kids, or if they mess up, you need to have a little extra just in case a oops happens, or, oh, I did it wrong. You're not sitting there cutting out because you're taking away from the experience. They're going to remember these lessons. Like I said, it doesn't have to be anything special. I said, hey, I bought some cupcakes. Who wants to decorate? They decorated. And I said, well, okay, tell me what we talked about. We talked about the man at the pool of Bethesda. We talked about the promises of God. We talked about Noah. So while they're doing these things, but I just want to just let y'all know that even if you are in a class and you have a behavioral person or a person that's acting out or whatever, if you have someone in there with you, then you would ask them, hey, just take them to the side and talk to them so that everybody else can learn the lesson. Because when they see that everybody else is learning and they're answering questions, they're going to want to come back to the group. They don't have to go far so that they can still hear the lesson and hear what's going on. Now, they know when they come to my class, new or old, Miss Yolanda don't play. That doesn't happen. Because I'm here to teach you. I want you to learn what God has for you. But before they get there, I'm in that room and I'm praying. Whatever it is, God, let them leave it at the door because that's what I have to do. But if you have to come in with it, it's okay. And I tell you what we're going to do. Every time you come into this room, I got a mirror. I got a full-fledged mirror. And I said, I want you to go up to it. And I want you to talk to the mirror. Who are you going to see in the mirror? You. Now you tell me who God says you are. They were like, I don't. I said, you can say anything you want because you're talking to you. Nobody else is in this mirror. I'm beautiful. Yes, you are. I'm smart. Yes, you are. And that just broke the ice. And they were like, wow, I really like that. So every time they came in, I had that mirror. I said, talk to yourself. Let us know, not just us, you yourself, what God is doing. Even in a second, through a fourth grade level, God speaks to you just like he does me. So there's nothing that you can't. They were like, I don't know. I said, nobody's looking at you. You're the only one standing in the mirror. You don't see anybody in behind you, only you in front of you. So talk to you, encourage you. And if it's something going on, I said, you can talk to us. You can bring us to the side and say, hey, Miss Yolanda, I really need to talk to you. I said, because we're here for you to learn. I said, look in the mirror. Now tell me, how would you approach someone? You're Christians. You that are Christians. Look in the mirror. Now witness to somebody that's lost. Can you do it? We're teaching. Each one will teach one. Tell them what you know, even if you don't know the Bible all the way. God saved me. God loves me. God wants the best for me. But if you can't encourage yourself, if you can't look in the mirror at your own self and say something nice, we failed. So once again, it's nothing that you have to go out and spend a whole lot of money. You can get some raggedy paper plates. You can get some, now, granted, I wouldn't ask Demetria to cut anything for me. Can't do it. But you have people that are able, capable, and like I said, when you start at the beginning of the week, watch God. He's going to bring you to something that will bring you back to that lesson and say, wow, I didn't know it was like this. But you got to be reading and not just wait till Sunday. I was like, Lord, I don't have anything that I can do. What can I do for this certain subject? And they were like, and I was like, okay, Lord, I'm just going to lay down. All of a sudden it hit me. Holy Spirit said, go get some Play-Doh. I said, I was like, okay, okay. And he taught that lesson. He taught that lesson.
Okay, so let me show my little Play-Doh. Okay, so we got scriptures here. So if y'all got your Bibles, go to Genesis 1 and 8. Genesis 1 and 11. Genesis 1:14 and Genesis 1 and 20. Okay, so this is the story of creation, right?
I'm sorry, can you say those again, or are they on our syllabus? They were pretty fast.
No, so the first one is Genesis 1 and 8, and then Genesis 1 and 9, Genesis 1 and 11, Genesis 1:14, and Genesis 1:20. So here is a very inexpensive way to teach creation. Again, she has, fourth grade. She had Play-Doh. She's talking about it. She has things in front of them, the little Play-Doh, and tells them what they heard they can make. Okay, so I have it on a paper plate for Genesis 1 and 8. Somebody read that aloud.
Genesis 1:8, and God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the same day.
Okay, and 1 and 9.
And God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so.
Okay, so here's my little craft with my little Play-Doh. Okay, now these are my assimilations of clouds, even though they should be white, but they're falling because I'm turning it upside down. But at the bottom here is the water. So in verse 9, he said, let the waters beneath the sky. These little pieces are my sky, even though they're falling. This part at the bottom is my water. Okay. Looks horrible because I am not an artistic person, right? At all. But
All right.
the students are going to be sitting there with their Play-Doh, making what they heard. You reading the scripture, let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place. So I'm going to take off the little sky part. So look how I made my little lines of my water flowing, right? Doesn't look worth anything, but the kids will be sitting there playing with it, right? Okay. What is Genesis 1 and 11?
Then God said, let the land produce vegetation, seed bearing plants, and trees on the land that bear fruit with seeds in it, according to their various kinds. And it was so.
Okay. Like, let me do this. Now, let's horrible. Okay. The vegetation and the trees and the plants. So this is my little tree with the little, my little bark, the little tree, my little fruit, my little strawberries, the little vegetation. Looks absolutely horrible. But the kids sitting there creating. He said vegetation, he said trees, he said plants. Let them have something to actually play with. Okay, 1 and 14, Genesis. This one gonna fall all apart, but just Genesis 1 and 14.
And God said, let it be lights to the firmament of the heavens to divide, and the day from the night, and let it be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years.
This is my son. To turn into a sea creature, but this is my son. So I started with just a little circular piece, right? Because most pieces you're looking at the sun, you could just make a big round something. And then I just started playing with more Play-Doh and rolling it, and it turned into these little things. I was like, ooh, those are the sparks coming off the sun. And I just kept going, right? That's how kids will be when they actually start playing with something. And this literally happened in class. It's like, no, I'm doing the sun. You do the sea creatures. No, you do this. So they're engaged and they heard the things that she said, and they were trying to recreate all of the elements that she spoke of. Okay. The last one is Genesis 1 and 20.
And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven.
So here's my bird. They're under the sky, but above the ground. I heard ground, I heard fowl of the air and the sky. So I took my little blue little cloud pieces, my little bird, a little black jay or whatever they're called, and my little ground pieces, right? I'm sitting here in my own little element making these little things. This pack of Play-Doh cost $6, and it was 8 little jars in there. But you could go to any store, you could buy the little things of Play-Doh like 60 cents, piece. So you could say, here, I'm going to give you brown, I'm going to give you blue, I'm going to give you whatever. You can even be teaching them how to share. I need a little bit of your brown to make the bottom of my tree. I need this. So every little part of it has some kind of educational piece. And then when they get done with all of it, you choose what's going to happen. Are these things going to be on display in the class? Get like a shoebox or something and have them piece the whole story together so you can start at what happened on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, with all of the little things that they made themselves. When you're done with the whole story, they get to take their parts home. If it's something that they could take home with, and they're going to be excited. Mama, look, I did day 6. Or I was the one who made this in our whole little thing. Or if you bring the parents in to look at the entire presentation and like a little parent, like a little show and tell, they get excited to bring their mom to what they did, and they'll start telling their mom or dad what you taught them because that's why they made this. And then another thing, like I actually wrote on the little plate the scripture itself. A lot of schools are saying that children are having a very hard time reading. You can actually take the time to let them read this themselves and figure out what they're going to do. Like I gave you guys a scripture. You can say, little Johnny, you're going to take verse 11. Little Sally, you're going to take verse 20 and let her or him go back and read that part. Don't tell them what to do. Give them another way to enhance their learning. They read that. And some of them may not be the greatest readers. That's where you or your classroom helper goes over to them to try to say, okay, this says this, or you're helping them with that. So you're killing two birds with one stone, like my bird here that should be killed. You're killing two birds with one stone because you are on the front end actually thinking about the ways to make it be creative. Does that make sense to you? Okay. All right. What kind of questions do you have about that or about this little segment here? Being creative, not so costly, but taking the time to study ahead of time so you can find the ways to bring in something that will allow them to be engaged, trying to transform their minds on the truths or the principles that you just taught. Do you have questions about this segment?
So I have a question.
Okay.
If we're going to, Jesus said that we must have the faith of what?
A little child.
Anybody?
Mustard seed.
Yeah.
Mustard seed.
Mustard seed.
Okay. So you can get a cardboard. And I did this. I said, okay, I got a seed from a peach. I got a seed from a watermelon. I said, because I don't know that they know what a mustard seed looks like. They may think that my faith has to be as big as this peach seed. And I put all of these seeds on there and I said, can you tell me where these seeds came from? And they were like, I don't know what that is. What's that little bitty thing down there that you got? Because I went and I got, and I was like, Lord, if this is all that they have, if this is all we have to have, I'm going to show them that all of these other big seeds, he's just asking you for a mustard seed. A mustard seed. And they were like, that's all we got to have. I said, that's it. I even went out and bought some mustard seed. Now, I ain't used mustard seed, but I went out and bought some because I want them to see what type of faith you have to have. You have to get creative. You have to show them because they see seeds in a watermelon. They see seeds in, grapes, just different things. I said, so you can just get them and let them dry out and put them on a poster board and see if they can determine where did this come from? Just thinking. I mean, some of y'all eat fruit. Surely you can come up with a couple of seeds that you can just show them. But it all depends on what you're teaching too.
You gotta be studying ahead of time to be able to do that.
And you gotta know. Just like we did the seeds. Some fell on stony ground. Some fell on. We planted some seeds. And I said, okay, so let me know. Miss Yolanda, I forgot to water mine. I said, okay, well, let's see what it does. Well, mine never did grow. I said, did you talk to it? Did you cultivate it? Did you really go the extra effort so that it would grow? And then they came in, and one said, look how big mine grew. I said, that's what I'm trying to get y'all to see. When you use your mustard seed faith, when that seed is planted, you got to water it. You got to tend to it. The word is watering. You're getting it. But if you leave it alone and set it in the window, what do you think's going to happen to it?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
All right.
Because you didn't do anything. So, but y'all got this. I'm telling you, y'all got it.
Right. Okay, if there are no questions, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our break. I see two comments in the chat. We'll talk about them when we get back. So it's 7:30. Your break is for 15 minutes. So you come back at 7:45. So you can turn your cameras off. And when you come back, turn the cameras on. And that way the secretary will know that you're present. For those of you that are dialing in, when we come back, we'll call your names and we'll check you in that way. So take your 15-minute break. All right. So creation. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, creation.
Okay.
I think I pushed 200. I think
For 200. Okay. So when I was leading the game, I'm going to click on the 200. It's going to show the question. Okay. It's going to play music, same way the real Jeopardy game does. Okay. This phase can be seen in Genesis after every phrase of the Bible. What phrase is in Genesis after every phase of creation? You can answer out loud.
every phrase in Genesis.
Yeah, so what phrase? So now, Ms. Vaughn is in competition with you. So Ms. Vaughn has the answer. Ms. Vaughn could answer the question before you, which means she would get the points, and then she gets to choose the next one. So when you're in your class, you make sure you set up your rules for what they're going to do. Here's the question. First one who gets ready to answer, and you may have like something to buzz on, or I always get like those little clapping hands you can find at the dollar store to hear what the sound is, or a bell or something that there's a different sound for, so you'll know who was ready to go, because you might not have lights, but even though there is a way to buy little lights from Amazon that you can really assimilate somebody actually buzzing something too. So one of you, the phrase that can be seen in Genesis after every phase of creation.
And God say it? Am I supposed to say it?
Yes, you can say it. Your answer is, and God said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now up here in the corner, if you guys can see me, it says skip or see the answer. When I click on this, it's going to show what the answer is. Okay, the answer is, what is God saw that it was good is the answer. So what phrase happened after every part of creation? God saw that it was good is the answer. In Jeopardy, you answered in the form of a question for it. And you could choose, and you're playing the game, if you're going to not give them credit because they didn't say what is, to create it in the form of a question back. Okay. Now at the bottom here, if I hit this continue, it's just going to go back to show me that this question was already taken. So the next one that we pick, you cannot click on the same one again. Down here at the bottom, if you were taking score, on the electronic one, you can say how many teams you have, and I could click that this answer is correct, and it'll add the little ding sound and say how many dollars I'm adding into it. So it's fully integrated the same way the game was last night, that you could do everything inside of this to play the game. Okay. All right. So you have a question?
I didn't play the game last night. I don't know how it works. See, this is my first night, so
that's why I picked on you.
Oh, yes, see, I wasn't here the first night.
Yeah, but this is the first time we did this one. So you're just going to read the question. I'm gonna read the question, and you're gonna, if you have the answer, you're gonna give the answer. If you don't have the answer, Ms. Vaughn may have the answer, and we're gonna keep going just so you show how the game works. For now. So I'm gonna go to Ms. Vaughn. Say, Ms. Vaughn, pick your category and pick your dollar amount for what you want to answer.
But I'll go with books of the Bible. But I'll tell you, I'm not a big fan of games, so I'm probably not going to be a good participant.
Oh, okay. Well, what dollar amount would you pick if you were playing the game?
100.
100. Okay. So the question for books of the Bible is, what is the first book of the Bible?
That one's pretty easy, Genesis.
Yes. And you want to put the easy things at the beginning. So in this case, I would just click here to see, and it'll reveal the answer to your class.
Okay, let's get another player.
Okay, no problem. Would anyone else like to play?
I will.
Okay, Miss Wicks. Okay, so what category would you take, Miss Wicks?
Let's see. Books of the Bible for 500.
Okay, books of the
Whoa.
Bible for 500. Because what is the
Strategy.
right? Because what is the last book of the Gospels?
John. What is John?
John. Okay. And I'm going to say the same thing I said last night, that sometimes students might be very quick to answer. If they start, what's the last book? They be like, Revelation, because that's the last book of the whole book. Okay. So write your questions so that they really need to read and pay attention to the whole thing. Okay. So that answer is John. Okay. So if I say yes and hit this little plus sign, I'll have to click it to give her $500. Okay, that's built into the game. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to Reverend Williams. Pick your category and pick a dollar amount. So you have creation, books of the Bible, division of the Bible, authors, main characters, or Bible stories.
Let me see. I push authors.
Authors, okay. And 100, 200, 300, 400, or 500.
Oh, let's see. Give me 200.
200. Okay. So the question is, this king wrote many psalms and was a man after God's own heart.
What is David?
What is David? Yes, but who is David?
I'm sorry.
But yes, no, same thing. Who is David? But yes.
It's a question.
It is. So it's that same thing. Yes. All right. So then I would hit continue here. Uh-oh. That ain't what I want. Okay, so I would give you your $200 by clicking that. And then you would say, okay, give me another one. You would keep going. This game is one that you guys can have multiple students on. You can form little teams so that you can be playing it all together. And of course, when you create the questions, go easiest to hardest. You want it to build upon each other, especially if you got different levels of students from learning. Like one of the comments that I heard before the break was some students who came to class who had not been to church before. That is always something that you should be prepared for, people not coming, which is why we do have to actually prepare to teach the actual lesson. We should never assume that the kids already know this. Like we always been talking about creation, but there's somebody in there who ain't never heard it before. So if you're teaching it like you're trying to make sure everybody gets it and not like, tell me what you remember. Making the kids who have never been there before feel bad. I actually had a pastor's wife come and ask me before, what do you do to make sure that the kids who have not always been in church get it? And she was telling me that when she first started going to church with her boyfriend at the time, ended up marrying him, he became a pastor. She said, I had never been to church. But when I got to the church, all of them had been in church all day long. I just felt so bad and odd because I didn't know anything. So how do we make sure that kids who come with their friends who ain't never been to church, or people who now moved in with their grandma and the grandma gonna bring them to church all the time, like they've never been there before, you gotta assume that they don't know the lesson. It's same for the adults too. This is not just for children. We got adults who ain't never heard this stuff. We have adults who just came into the knowledge of the Lord. There was a man, I heard him, the question was, how long Jesus, when you gave life to Jesus, whatever. He said, 70, 72 or whatever. Next time, well, how old are you? He was like 73. He had just learned the Lord the year before, but he was there. He was faithful. You cannot assume that people know everything. So you want to teach the entire lesson. And if you choose to teach it creatively in a game, then you can make sure you still add easy stuff that even the ones who came for the first time can even get it. Okay. Now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second so I can highlight something else to you differently. What if you don't have technology in your church? What if you don't have a way to play these games, you know, the digitalized ones? So I'm going to show you another, like Jeopardy, what we just did here. You can take paper, you can take cardboard, you can take posters, you can take cardstock to make the game. Okay. Now I just have it on paper right here. So I was trying to figure out how I was going to stick it behind me and it probably would have fell out. So assume that this is my category. I just wrote Jesus' posse. It's like was the disciples. Okay. So that's the top of my category, like at the top. And then I have these little papers that have the dollar amounts on them. This is a 100, a 300, 200. Okay. So on your poster, on your wall, or wherever you can stick something that the church won't be mad at you for, messing up no paint,
That's the truth.
whatever the rules are.
It
Okay.
happens.
You create your category on the piece of paper. Then, and you tack this, whatever, to that. Then you have your little envelopes underneath it. Okay. So my dollar amount for this is 100. My answer is inside of it. Okay. So for this one, for example, my question is for Jesus' posse, how many disciples did Jesus have? Is my question for 100. So if I had a game host that was helping me, I'm not doing it myself. If they said, we're going to go with 100, you could tape the question to the back of this so that the person could pull it off your wall and say, how many disciples did Jesus have? Is the question. Okay. The person gets ready to answer the question. The answer is on the inside. Whether they get it right or wrong, you still go with the answer. You can reveal it, you can show it. The answer is 12. They got it right. Hand this to the kid or the adult who got it right. And at the end of that game, you count up how many of these they had to get their total points. Okay, so you could do Jeopardy on paper, like you can make it, you could create it some kind of way. Okay. So every one of my little papers has my answer revealed on the inside. And the only thing that I would tell you is that if you got kids who always like sneak it around, you got to make sure you're not using something that's gonna bleed through so they can like peek under there and try to see what it is. They're always, trying to find a way to do something. So you could do that, take this in. You can even have this sealed at the bottom or do something, but you can make that if you don't have a way to actually show, it on a screen or do it electronically. Okay, any questions about that? All right. Okay, so now I do, and I must pause here. I'm not gonna keep going with the game because I want to keep going because for our time. I do have a link for you to this game. This one is free that I will give you, but you have to create a profile on the webpage. So when I send you back the stuff for tonight, it's gonna be the link for it. You will go on there, choose login. You need your email address. You create a password. You'll have a profile with them. You get to create your categories, create the dollar amounts. Like I did 100, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could go to 1,000 or, change the increments of the dollar amount. So we could do that, which I'll show you how to do it tomorrow. But I'll give you the link tonight so you can make the profile so we can actually do it tomorrow. Okay, now what I want to go to is our teenagers, our youth people, and some things about our teens. So the first thing that I'm going to say with our youth is that they are in probably one of the most contentious environments that they could ever be in because they are exposed to so much. They have everything at their fingertips. They don't have any kind of oversight in what they do on their phones when they get to school. We don't know what's happening. Some of them are never taught any Bible stories. So when they come to you, they're looking for not only for you to teach them, because half of them don't want to be there anyway. So you got to make sure that whatever you're teaching them, that you are grabbing their attention. They do not want to sit there and read. They do not want you to sit there and make them read to them either. So you have to find the ways to make it be engaging. So first, I'm going to say that I want to tell you that there is a Bible out that's called the Gen Z Bible that is written to, I'm going to say it's slang because that's what we call it, but that ain't what they call it. But it's written so it's easy to read for them. You can, let me share my screen. You can purchase the Bible. I've seen some from Amazon that you can actually purchase them. But this, what I'm clicking on now, which I'll give you the link to, this is just the online version of the Bible. So you don't have to spend the money for it, but you can actually go look it up and get the details. The way it lays out when you do the online version, they're going to put it side by side. The King James Version, which is what most churches will say, this is what the Bibles that they give out are King James, or when we give free gifts, we always go to King James. I'm going to tell you, these kids do not understand that. Some adults don't understand that. So I would never say that we should buy a kid a King James Bible because they're just going to put it to the side. They're not going to understand it. There's other versions like this. I'm going to say this first. This is to the extreme. I'm not going to tell you to buy this either because when I get done reading, you're going to be like, what? Because you're not going to understand it. But the kids will understand it. So you're going to want to find ways to connect with those kids. And if you start telling the Bible story in their language, they're listening. Okay. I did this at State Congress last year, and the kids didn't even recognize that we were actually reading the Bible. They thought we were just telling them a story. And they was like, what story is that? We was like, John chapter 8. They was like, that's the Bible? Yeah. Because it sounds like a conversation that they would have. And they all went to say, how do I download this? Like they wanted to get it. So just even by promoting a version that they can understand. So I chose John chapter 5, which is the story that we just got done talking about in the children's section about the kids trying to get to the pool. Okay, so I'm gonna read the Gen Z side of this. You can look at the King James or you know the story. So Gen Z side says, so there was this lit fest of the Jews and Jesus decided to flex and head to Jerusalem. So in Jerusalem, near the sheep hangout spot, there was this cool pool called Bethesda in Hebrew. It got 5 porches. FYI, by the way, the word market can also mean gate, just for a little fun fact. But there was a whole bunch of people who couldn't walk, blind, unable to move properly, and struggling, just chilling there, hoping for the water to start stirring. So there was this angel who came down to the pool at the specific time and stirred up the water. And then whoever was quick enough to jump in right after the water got stirred up would be completely healed from any sickness that they had. So there was this dude chilling there who's been dealing with a health issue for a whole 38 years. When Jesus peeped that he was down and knew that he had been in that situation for a hot minute, he straight up asked him, you want to be healed or what? Yo, bro, this dude couldn't walk. Straight up told him, yo, man, I don't got anybody to help me into the pool when the water gets all stirred up. Every time I try to make my way there, someone else beats me to it. Yo, Jesus is like, hey, dude, get up and grab your mattress and start walking. Now, you know the real Bible story. You know, I just told you the Bible story, but that ain't how you learned it. And that's not how you would say it. But if you told these kids, this story or ask them to read it, they would understand that. They could tell you back what happened in the story because they understood it. Now, if you go over here and you start talking about being paralyzed and they don't know what that means, but you could say they said I couldn't walk, it's common language. It makes sense to them. So this is a resource I'm going to tell you that you could use when you're studying for teens. How would the Gen Z Bible say it? And you don't have to tell them to read it from there, but you could go and read it to see how they would translate it into their language so that you could know the way that they would talk. Okay, Miss Carolyn, I see your hand.
Yeah, it was just funny to me. I just sent my children's minister a text message to ask him if this is the Bible that he uses, because that's the way he talked to the children.
And they understand him.
Uh,
Now,
this is Shanice Nesby. They also have on TikTok this lady. She has a website, and it's called Trap Bible Stories.
We
and
going there next. I'm gonna show you one.
Okay, all right.
Yes, about to show you one. So with the teens, so what I want to get across with you guys is that they are like in this element, like I gotta be at church because I gotta be at church because my mom ain't gonna let me stay home. But don't mean we gotta let that attitude take over what's happening in our space. If we open up our space to make sure that they are engaging enough, they'll want to come back. So for what Ms. Shanice just said, there's another thing that's called Trap Bible Stories. Okay. This one is what I told y'all to read in your syllabus before you came to class. So this is Matthew 15 that I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna have to activate the sound, so I gotta stop sharing so I can make you hear this one because I need y'all to hear this one. Now, the Bible story, since we didn't do our homework, this is where the woman came and asked Jesus to heal her daughter, and he said that you should not that this is not for this was the one that he called her, should he give things to the dogs? And she said, even dogs get the crumbs from the king's table, right? She was asking for her daughter to be healed. And he was basically saying, like, I didn't come here to do this for you because she was not a Jew. She was not a Hebrew, right? Okay. So you let me, let's see. Activate this. And this is called Trap Bible Stories. So trap, I'll tell you, is a form, it's a word that they use when they describe as a certain type of music. You guys, I'm gonna say it's past hip hop. Like some people don't like hip hop. Trap is a little worse than hip hop. But it's a mood, it's an attitude, it's a slang, is what it is. And so they try to take, I'm gonna say it like this. They try to take what they are known for in their secular world and try to create the atmosphere here so that they could actually learn. All right, so that's the story. I think this is about 5 minutes, so I'm gonna play the whole thing. And what I want you to um, pay attention to is her tone, the music that's behind it. Um, Let's see. Let me make sure I got sound, and I don't. Sound. Make sure am I showing, and I am. Okay.
Welcome to Trap Bible Stories, y'all. So I was reading my Bible, right? And in the Gospel of Matthew 15, 1 through 31, Jesus snapped when he compared this lady to a dog, and before y'all say he didn't, yes, he did. But anyways, let me rewind, because why Jesus do that? Y'all, it all started when Jesus had a long day. See, a group of Pharisees who were like people who go to seminary school came from Jerusalem to test and debate Jesus. Talking about, hey, Jesus, our pastors and Bible experts from back in the day taught us about how to live the right way, but why your disciples ain't doing what was taught? They ain't saved for real. They don't wash their hands before they eat. They fingernails just as nasty as they want to be. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So y'all, Jesus going smooth, say, wait, y'all don't even listen to God about keeping his commandments and obeying them, but y'all down here making up dumb laws about washing hands to be clean? Bro, stop. That's when Jesus was like, y'all just be down here making up stuff. God told y'all to love and obey your parents and don't curse them or you'll be better off dead. But y'all don't listen to that, do y'all? Y'all don't give to them when they're in need, but be telling yourself you gave to God. Y'all be making these passed down stories of religion and ideas your faith more than the actual faith. Y'all some straight up hypocrites and ops to God. That's why Isaiah said what he said about y'all. He knew y'all would say good things about me, but weren't gonna obey me. He knew y'all would say I'm great, but would be a stranger to me. He knew y'all would be out here saying thank you God in vain while teaching y'all own made up rules. Y'all, Jesus was so sick of them, he called everyone in the crowd over and was like, hey, I don't know who need to hear this, but let me mess y'all up real quick, because I know y'all been listening to foolishness, but it ain't a shrimp, a piece of bacon, catfish, or a hamburger that's gonna make y'all unclean. Stop telling people what they put in their mouth makes them dirty. The words that come out of y'all mouth, that's what make y'all dirty. That's when Jesus' homies came up to him and was like, you know you just offended them. They said you lying. So y'all, Jesus gonna respond back to the disciples and say, bro, stop listening to them. They blind. They don't care about what my father said. They care about made up laws. A blind person can't show you where to go. The blind leading the blind means all of them will fall. Y'all tell me why one of Jesus' homies, Peter, gonna say, what you mean? Y'all, Jesus was like, what I mean? How you with me? I'm defending y'all about y'all dirty fingers, and you still don't understand what I'm talking about. You don't understand that what you eat, you poop. But the words y'all be saying come from y'all thoughts. Evil thoughts come from evil people who do evil things. They murder people. They sleep with another man's wife. They have sex before marriage. They rob. They tell lies and talk bad about people. It's these things that make people unclean. But if you eat food when you haven't washed your hands, you're still clean. Y'all, when he got done checking him and shaking his head at the disciples who still needed hand holding, he went to Tyre and Sidon. Y'all, that's when a woman from Canaan came up to him crying. She was like, Jesus, have mercy on me, Lord, son of David. My daughter is possessed by the devil. Y'all know what Jesus did? Y'all, he ignored her. But let me give y'all context, because back then some of the Jewish people and Canaanites were beefing, so they used to be weird towards one another and call each other names and compare who was God's chosen people. Sounds like black Hebrew Israelites, don't it? But anyways, Jesus ignored the lady. That's when the disciples were like, hey, Jesus, tell this lady to go home. She messing up the vibe, following us, crying and begging for your help. She messing up my spiritual high. Y'all, that's when Jesus gonna say, God has sent me to help only the people of Israel. They're the ones that lost their way. Pause. Because what Jesus was really saying is that more outsiders were believing in him than the ones who shared his bloodline. But the disciples didn't understand. So that's when the Canaanite woman fell to her knees in front of Jesus and was like, Lord, please help me. Y'all, tell me why Jesus gonna compare this woman to a dog and say, it's not right to take food from children and give it to dogs. She was like, who you calling a dog? Just playing, she didn't say that. Y'all, you would think she would have had some kind of clap back though, right? But y'all, she replied to Jesus like, yes, sir, that's true. But even the dogs don't mind eating crumbs that fall from their master's table. Y'all, Jesus answered her like, right, you clearly have faith in God. God will do what you ask. And in that same moment, instantly, the woman's daughter was set free. She was like, thank you, Jesus. And after that, Jesus went to Lake Galilee and healed even more people, and all the people praised God. Jesus shows us that faith removes every barrier of religion and hypocrisy that focuses on appearance and tribe over real belief. The woman may not have been a Jew, but her belief in God meant she just needed to believe and be where the master was. Moral number one, how many of us would have missed our healing because we couldn't get over the delivery of the person who could help us? And some of y'all are just one offended moment away from missing everything God has for you. Moral number two, God is focused on your heart. You can look clean, post scripture, study and say God is good all day. But God is not impressed by performance or proximity. He wants true worshipers. Anyways, now go read it for yourself. I want to know what y'all learned. Matthew 15, 1 through 31. This is Trap Bible Stories with Tam Watson. Get the audio book today at Trap Bible Stories.
All right. Now,
I liked it.
it's a lot as well, because it's not how we talk, right? We looking like, I ain't saying that. But those kids will understand that. So this will be my suggestion to you. If you can use chat browser, I would tell the kids to go find the story that you're going to do before class. Let them watch it on their phones before class. They will come in the class like, oh, you're talking about the woman that he called a dog, and she like they'll have the little elements of the story, and then when they get to class, you can open the Bible and really teach it from the Bible, but they already with you because they watched the trap Bible story. Or you could tell them that if to get the Gen Z Bible app, read, Matthew 15 before you come to class. So they're going to get it in their language. They'll be ready to engage with you when you come to class. And if they are actually into it, you could start your class with your whatever your creative way is, because they already know what you're talking about. And then the moments that you could add in more context, like the background, the burden, the blessing, or the who, what, when, where, why, you could add those things in because they have a little inkling of what you're talking about because they already took a look at it before they came to class. Now, that way, if you can't stand to hear the trap Bible music, if you can't stand to read it in the words that they have, because think about it, we as older people, I would say this way, some older people would say that's blasphemous to take the Bible and turn it the way that they did, which is not. But because of how some of us were taught and how sacred and holy the Bible is, we'll kind of be like the Pharisees a little bit, where we hold on so much to the traditional pieces and won't get past that far enough to actually teach these kids in a way that they can be taught. So we're going to have to open up our minds enough to reach out to where they are, where they can understand it. Don't mean you let it take over your entire class, but it means you acknowledge that this stuff exists. Give them the responsibility to being invested in their own education where they can get it. And you'll be the coolest teacher ever because you taught them to go watch Trap Bible stories. Okay, Miss Monroe, I see your hand.
Yes, ma'am. I have a question. In my Sunday school class, I allow the kids to read the key verse. And what I'm finding out is a lot of my students cannot read on their grade level. Can you provide advice on how to assist them with that?
Yes. So one, Bible apps. Like I'll say this. I would never tell a kid to read anything in a class. Never. Because you don't know if they can read. And most cases, when like we were talking at the beginning about troublesome kids or problem children or and whatnot, most kids, they don't want to act out, but they don't want you to tell them to read to expose that they can't read, so they're going to start acting out so that the attention is on what they did funny or whatever, and not that they can't read. So I would never tell a kid to read out loud. If somebody volunteered to do it, I would go with that, but I would never ask them to. And in this day and age, because they all got phones or got some kind of gadget, you can have them to play it through the Bible app, or you can play it through the Bible app to read it out loud for them. But I would completely remove asking them to read anything in the class. But if there is like the educational deficiencies, like all school districts say how bad the children's testing scores are. That for me, from a teacher, that's how you go to the youth leaders or go to the pastors and talk about how do we add tutorial services that's outside my classroom, because when they come for me, I really am trying to teach them this Bible, but I know that they can't read, or we need to figure out something else for that. That's not for you to address in your class. It's something that the church can take on, but that means you don't put them in a position to expose that they can't. And if it's smaller children, like depending on what age group you are, changing the Bible alone helps them to be able to read. Or you could print out the verses that you want, bigger words. Like most children, smaller children, they can't. The most Bibles that the children get, the font is so small they can't even follow it with their finger. So you may have to write out things on index cards, write them bigger, and it's going to have to be a sounding out like exercise with smaller children. But if they're past third or fourth grade, I would not ask them to read at all, because you don't know if they can read.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Anyone else?
Hi, this is Pharisee Lachelle Vaughn. And
Yes, sir.
I preference that because my mother was a third grade teacher and my father got to the eighth grade. But pronunciation, enunciation, reading, writing, arithmetic is all that they believed in. They felt that if you could read, you could do anything. And I wonder sometimes about whether or not the church is failing us because we're
Mhm.
moving so close to the other side that as you were playing that, I was thinking to myself, never, because it is important for me that children read. And if I know a student can't read, then I'm going to spend that time with that student because they're going to learn to read and they're going to enunciate, they're going to pronounce, and they're going to learn to write. And the more you read, the more you know, and the more you grow. I do believe that. And I believe writing is critical when you are trying to be successful in any workplace or any place. Reading and writing, arithmetic, that's crucial. And so I wonder what is our position then as a church if we're going to go to the other side and start trapping, saying words that are nowhere going to get you through an ACT. Creative ways of teaching for some, not for the Pharisee. Lachelle Vaughn.
What do you teach? What age group do you teach?
Every age, every group, men, women, co-ed, students. I just had children and we were talking about authority and who do you respect? One boy told me everybody. And so we went to the games. I said, you're right. You have to respect everyone. You don't want to disrespect because that's going to call attention to yourself. Had great conversation with him. And he's one that normally doesn't talk. We talked about respect. And we talked about LeBron's and his disrespect for Memphis and Cleveland. He really got into it then. So I do understand meeting children where they are. But you're gonna read and you're gonna write, and I'm not gonna embarrass you, but I am gonna help you because I need for you to get to that ACT. I need for you to graduate, and I need for people to stop saying 125,000 Memphians cannot read, and we're reading at a third grade level, and we don't need to be trapping. But I'm a Pharisee. I own it.
Now, when so your one question is has the church failed, right? Which could be a whole, well, in fact, there is a class about contemporary issues and societal issues, which could really answer that question. So what I would say is that when you're tasked to teach, I'll say it this way, when you're tasked to teach, you got maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour, right? If you have learning disabilities in your classroom and you're going to take the time in your classroom to teach people how to read, then you're not going to be teaching the actual stories for those who actually can read or for other people who are not, or you're showing the attention to that one child. That's going to create a whole nother issue. Should the church be doing that? The church should be doing a whole lot of things. Like I could get on my soapbox about what the church should do that it is not doing. But when you're trying to reach the kids where they are, there's a place, I'm gonna say it this way, there's a place for everything. Should the church, like my church, we was leaving Sunday, we were talking about bringing in the ACT prep for our students. For my previous role, I actually had a person on my staff that's what they did on Wednesday nights. There's a place for it, right? When you're in Sunday school, that's not the place for it. When you're in Wednesday night Bible study, you may have a educational hour, tutorial hour. Matter of fact, the way I had my last layout, we had a computer room, we had a homework room, we had the fun room, we had the classroom. There's a time for all of it. But if a teenager, for the segment that we're on right now, when teenagers come in there and you want to grab their attention, I'm saying this is an option. And I say it because what Jesus just said in this clip was that y'all are worrying about the wrong thing in this moment. If your responsibility is to get them ACTs, then you would never do something like this. But if your responsibility at that moment is to help the kids to actually learn about the story, I'm saying that this is an option. All right. Anyone else have a comment? I think I saw. No, I didn't. Does somebody else have a comment? See a hand raised. Carla?
You saw my hand? Oh,
No, your hand
okay.
is up?
No.
Oh, Carla, the one above you.
Oh, sorry. So I just want to say that like I'm 45 years old and I have been in church my entire life. And it wasn't until 2 years ago when I realized that there was a CSB Bible that I could understand. And that's how I began my Bible study that I now like tremendously. Like I can't get pulled away from it. So I know that everything isn't for everybody, but there are some areas that we like, I would say like I had to be dumbed down to for me to get it. And this is coming from a pastor's kid, a pastor's wife. So, like I said, in church my entire life. So, although it may not, what may go for one may not go for the other, but we can't just shut it down because we leaving people behind. And like I said, not ashamed of it. 45 years old and just started to love the Bible and understand it.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so I had one more thing, but we are at our time. So I'm gonna when I send you or when we start tomorrow, we're gonna stay on the teens because there's two more things that I would like to introduce for the teenagers before we go to young adults because that's a whole nother animal that we have completely left out is the young adults. And the way you will reach the young adults should not look nothing like what you're doing with children. And we got to stop lumping them in with the older senior adults because that's why they're saying they do not want to be here because there's nothing for me. So we have to figure out the creative ways that we can include the young adults too. So we'll start on the youth and then we'll go to the young adults right away. So again, we'll come tomorrow at 6. We'll come again right to this Zoom to get started. So I will be happy to see you guys on tomorrow. Well, I should ask, are there any more questions or comments before we end?
Well, I just want to say thank you for just for the teaching. I do understand what the other young lady was saying about, the kids and learning how to read, learning how to write, learning how to do those things. Those things are most important. But I think your response to that was excellent because, there is, like you said, there is a time, there is a place. And so I agree with that. I agree with her. I agree with her too. I agree with both of y'all. But I've got two grandchildren and my concern is about them. How do I reach them? I've got one that's going into the 9th grade next year, and I've got a granddaughter who just turned 10 last night. And so, but they're interested in the church. They love the church. We have a young lady, and I wish I could. Her name is her last name is Harris, Hillary Harris. But she has a way with our children that the children love her. They love to come her, and she has a way, and I don't know what it is, but she has a way that those children love her. They learn their Easter speeches, whatever it is. She can have them and learn them within 2 or 3 days. Well, it's just something she knows how to address and the children. But I just want to share this with her too. But I'm grateful for that. But I just wanted you to know, let other lady know that I appreciate her too. But what I'm learning a lot. I really am. I'm learning a lot.
Good, good. And I'll say this to address it. Just in general. And if you want to leave, just go ahead and drop right now. So let me say this so we don't end, so it doesn't appear that there's like any kind of contention or nothing like that.
No.
Here's where I am coming from. I serve right now as the youth and young adult president for the state convention. And when I go around this state, I am telling you what I hear is I don't want to be there because it's not for me. I am there because I have to be there, but I don't want to be there. So it's just whatever. That's from the kids. From the pastors, what I'm hearing is we have not been able to bring our youth back since COVID. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when COVID hit, we showed these kids that you didn't have to be here. You can stay at home. You can still love God. You can still be blessed. You can still whatever. Like all the things, I'm gonna say in air quotes. I'm a preacher's kid too, right? We said all these things that scared these kids and some adults to be here all the time. You're not going to be blessed unless this. You're not going to this unless that. They got home during COVID and saw that was not true. Y'all was lying to us all this time. So now that I haven't been here in 3 years, and now you're trying to build it back. And I saw that I could get a 5-minute reel, like REEL on Facebook or Instagram. I could learn a word in 5 minutes, but y'all want me to sit in this class for an hour and 20 minutes. Y'all just reading to me and it's not exciting to me. I'm not getting anything. No, I don't want to be back. So I'm hoping that one of our goals in wanting them to come back is that we're actually reaching them, transforming them, and not that they're just butts in seats to say that we had, this number of people there. When they walk out of here, what is their transformation and what is their connection here? Because I will tell you that there is a moving away, I'm gonna say moving away from our churches, because we want to do the same thing that we've done for 50 years, the same way. But there are other churches, other denominations, other conferences, other things that they have thousands of kids there because they're doing it a different way. And so I'm going to simply say that no, I do not think that we have to lower standards. I do not think that we should change the word. I do not think that we should do away with what we know is right to help build the kids where they should be. I am on a soapbox all the time about helping children. My favorite line is give the kids a fighting chance. Give them the fighting chance. But if you can't get them in the door because you won't teach them do anything different, you can't give them nothing because they're not coming. We got to be able to change what we do that it matches who we're going for, which is why I'm trying to segment the class in the different ways. What I'm going to tell you about young adults, I'm not going to say the same thing I said about children. Each one is going to do something. But these teenagers, this is where they at right now. And if we want them, we might want to really consider to rethink this thing, but still put everything in its rightful place. They should come to the church for everything. There used to be the case where you went nowhere else but the church. But I'm gonna tell you, because of our attitudes, the way it has been, they don't look to the church for nothing except free food or free giveaways when it's time for book bags. That's all we're good for them. We should be where they go for everything. We've lost that place. And if we want to be back there, there are some things we should do. So having the programs that gives them the tutoring and financial literacy and all those things, we should be on a soapbox for real saying, come get it from here. But we also got to meet them where they are to just even get them there. We've lost that place. But I pray to God that we would get it back. I do. All right. So we will see you guys tomorrow at 6, finishing up on the teens and going to the young adults.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much. You have a good night.
All right, good night.
Okay. Thanks.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Good night, everyone. Somebody put something in the chat box.